With citizencon coming up this weekend, there's a lot of buzz in the air surrounding Star Citizen in the community. The event is of course being hyped up, and we'll undoubtedly see something big from Squadron 42 as well, but there's something else big happening with Star Citizen. 4.0 finally going to the first wave of testing in Evocati, and simultaneously the preview channel has reached almost 2,000 concurrent players in a shard using server meshing. It's finally happening, and this video will explain what you need to know regarding 4.0 over the next month. And if you want to hear some in-depth predictions about citizencon, check out my latest podcast episode on the second channel Space Tomato 2, where we break down every panel in hopium glory. Thank you for checking out this news update. At long last, gosh, after 6 years of waiting, and even a delay this year, server meshing has been launched in the Persistent Universe test branch. What this means is that the first limited wave of testers, about 2,000 to 3,000 people, have taken the first step into the newest patch. This is despite the fact that previous patch 3.24.2 is still just going live this week. This is possible because of the code-based swap we talked about in my previous update video. Because the underlying code of 4.0 has been able to undergo testing in 3.24.2, progress has already begun on figuring out what 4.0 needs to run better. In addition to this, we are aware that the technical preview channel, which has actually been testing server meshing separately from the main game, has already passed the milestone needed for 4.0. The current tests of 500 to 1,000 to even 2,000 players per shard in a server meshed environment are aiming at future developments for the tech, not necessarily just the 4.0 launch. And with this last test at 2,000 players, we also have confirmed that following tests will be taking place on the 4.0 branch of updates, rather than the 3.24 branch, which is taking a step closer to unifying these server meshing tests happening on the preview channel and the actual testing of different things like jump points, the pyro system and Stanton system connecting, and possibly other things coming up in Evocati. Sure, the 2,000 player tests might have not been running very well, but these are stress tests, and the progress we've been seeing over the course of these stress tests every couple of weeks is giving promising signs for the game's future beyond 4.0. With all these simultaneous developments, the different aspects of server meshing and 4.0 testing are seemingly falling into place together. While the preview channel is stress testing the tech, the current testing of 4.0 in Evocati is focused on stability, with 4 separate servers servicing just 100 players for the initial test. That's what we usually see in the game right now, pre-server meshing. Though this is likely to change very quickly, possibly even by the time this video ends up getting published. In my opinion, 4.0 could launch with 100 player shards and it'd be just fine. Because as long as server meshing the technology is driving the back end of the game, we can really get started on seeing Star Citizen achieve something reminiscent of what's been sold in the past. However, I'm doubtful we will only see 100 player shards. The current tests at about 500 players in a shard seem to be running pretty well in the tech preview channel, and every 2 weeks these tests are making advancements and running better. But there's still plenty of progress to be made. The Evocati test that took place was rough, to say the least. The test included both the Stanton and pyro systems as well as the jump points in between, and those definitely had their rough spots, but we also didn't see some of 4.0's bigger features included just yet. This is normal, as all Evocati patches generally start with different features slowly getting added, but still indicative of the progress that needs to be made on the 4.0 patch. In addition to that, I don't know what was going on with the transit refactor, but the mission refactor was activated, so you can access some missions, but for the most part it was still kind of buggy, not allowing for all missions to be used. All this being said, I do think there are still several features planned for 4.0 that we haven't quite heard about yet, but might learn more about at citizencon. I still have my fingers crossed for the quantum travel rework to be included in 4.0. But this bugginess is nothing new. Evocati testing is a buggy mess, that's why it's so limited for every patch that comes out. Over the coming weeks, if not months, we'll see a lot of iterating on the 2-star system environment until it's not just timed tests every once in a while like what occurred on Saturday this weekend, but the 4.0 patch will remain up for longer testing and more players as it goes to the PTU phase. Until then, more and more will be added to these initial tests in terms of features, and I think we could see Star Citizen 4.0 in December. That doesn't mean it'll launch in December, there's always the chance they go mad and try to make it the IAE patch this year, which would be nerve-wracking considering it would also coincide with a free flight and a lot of attention put on the PU. But that would be a huge marketing boost on the back of inevitable citizencon hype, and they do love their boosts and their hype. So we'll see what happens with 4.0 over the next month, but at least as of now, things are still looking good. At the very least, an open PTU 4.0 patch by the end of the year is seeming likely, and while that's not fulfilling any goals from last year of getting most features into the live build by the end of 2024, it's certainly reaching arguably the biggest milestone this project has ever seen. Finally. In other news real quick, there's also a new global event surprise launching this week in the PTU. Details are fairly scarce on this one, and I'm sure it'll be live by the end of the week, but it's going to be called Save Stanton, and it seems to be formatted similar to the Overdrive initiative, which makes use of the Xenothreat global event. This event sounds like it focuses more on utilizing cargo hauling, much like the Blockade Runner event, where you'll need to attack and subdue pirates and recover their cargo, which provides some gameplay for both combat pilots and logistics workers. But it then branches off from there to include FPS combat encounters in various mission locations, and some amount of gameplay at distribution centers where players must hack terminals and clear out FPS enemies, while their friends in the sky overhead take down ships in the area. This in part calls back to one of the original missions planned for underground facilities way back when they were first being created, something we've seen adapted to current bunkers in the form of terminal hacking. These would likely be much better in a space like what the distribution centers offer, with a lot more space and things to do. And with the added coordination with enemies in the air, it should be more interesting too. Though I worry that just like many of the events that run now, this will end up feeling still pretty disconnected from the other players you're joining in your server or shard due to a lack of reliable VoIP. Now, besides these first 3 phases, there are actually more parts to this global event, but we don't know just yet what they include. We'll have to see more as 3.24 continues testing and goes live again, likely this week. That's it for current big news as we head into citizencon week and beyond. 4.0 is a big update, and we've been pretty wrong about its possibilities of arrival many times before this. I'm not unaware to the fact that my most watched video on this channel is still a preview of the patch from years ago. Oy. But we've gone from server meshing working on stage, to 4.0 hitting the release view, to janky server meshing tests, to less janky tests, and now our first step in the PU with Evocati testing in the space of the last year. It seems the patch is finally inevitable at this point, and with it, hopefully the push to turn this tech demo into an actual game. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy these types of quick news drops, let me know. I know there are a lot of places you can get your news, but if I can give you a little more historical context along with what's happening recently, I may make these more regularly going forward. I hope you got some new info here, or at least some entertainment, and I'll see you in the next.